G'day, I'm Owen, and you've joined this week's episode of the Pub Test, where we are continuing our Jack the Ripper Suspect series. And this week we are looking at Michael Ostrog. Now, I'm not going to worry about the pronunciation on this one at all, because it really doesn't matter, because this guy, this bloke, had so many different aliases, it is unbelievable. But where does he fit into the Jack the Ripper saga? Well, let me tell you this. If you wrote, or if I wrote a book on this guy's life, you would say, Owen, that's interesting, and it was quite good, really, but a bit unbelievable. No one would get up to all these different things, surely. So you sort of lost me on the believability. But trust me, there is a twist in this tale that you will find totally unbelievable at the end. So we're going to give a rundown on Michael's life. Now, it said he could have been Jewish. It said he was a Russian Pole. Said he was Russian. What we do know is that in 1833 he was born somewhere in the Russian Federation. Now, we don't know anything about his upbringing at all, except it would be safe to say he must have been very well educated, because it's reported he could speak 7 different languages fluently. That's quite an impressive feat. And he had enough knowledge about a lot of things as well to do half the things he did during his life. Why he went down the path he did, I've got no idea. But it was in 1863 he first pops up on the scene. So he's emigrated over to England. And at the Oxford University in 1863, he was caught thieving. So he stole some stuff. So they send him to prison for 10 months. Well, he gets out, and in 1864, he's then caught stealing from the Cambridge College or University. And in this instance, he gets a few more months back on a holiday paid for by the government in his cell. Now, 1865 was rather quiet, so it's probably why in 1866 he ramps back up again. But he's acquitted of charges of fraud. So, yeah, he must have been doing some type of con, but they said, okay, we'll let you go. But then he's caught defrauding somebody and stealing stuff. And so they may have looked at his record and said, well, buddy, we've given you a few chances. Off to prison you go, 7 years. Well, he's let out. And in 1873, and this particular year is critical later as regards this big twist in this story. But he's caught stealing again. So he's not long out of prison. He's done his 7 years, and he's caught stealing some items. But he doesn't take too kindly to this, maybe because he's just done 7 years. And so he thinks, well, I don't want to get done now because I will be in so much more trouble. So apparently he tries to get the revolver of one of the policemen and shoot his way out of the station. Doesn't work, thank goodness. No one was hurt. But he is now sent to prison for 10 years. So he's released from prison in 1883. And we could assume he must be doing some type of cons to keep himself going, but I would say by 1887 that money has run out because he is caught stealing a metal tankard. And this time they put him away, saying he's diagnosed with mania. So he's insane, they're thinking. There's got to be something wrong with this guy because he just can't stop committing crimes of some description. Well, he's released in 1888. Yes, that infamous year. And he's got a report, though, because he's listed as a dangerous individual. So it's like seeing your probation officer. You got to check back in and report, which he doesn't do so. So now they're looking for him. But somewhere in 1891, they must have caught up with him because he's put into a insane asylum, which they did with anyone that they thought had mental health problems back then. And then pretty well much periodically he's released from prison, steals something or defrauds someone, put back into prison. And this happens a few more times until finally in 1904, he is released from prison. And that's the last is ever heard of Michael Ostrog. So other than just being a petty criminal with maybe that serious attempted murder charge, where does he fit into this Jack the Ripper saga? Well, we have to give a big shout out to Sir Melville Macnaghten. Sir Melville stated in 1894 when he was asked, well, who was Jack the Ripper? Remembering he wasn't part of the original investigation, he came in after, but he was very sure it was Montague Druitt. But now a few years later, he's asked, who could it be? He says, well, it could have been Druitt, but it could have been this Michael Ostrog and one other person who we still haven't covered yet either. And why did Macnaghten say this? Well, he said he was a surgeon in the Russian Navy, and he carried knives with him. And we know with the attempted murder charge, he was a dangerous man. So he definitely could have committed these crimes. And remember, he was missing, never reporting, during 1888 when these crimes happened. Yet, as I said, there is a big, big twist here. See, in 1888, when he was released from prison, he was in France, where he stole something, and he was put in prison over there, which is the reason why he couldn't report to the people he had to in England, because he was locked up for the whole duration of the Whitechapel crimes. So he could not have committed the crimes at all. And yet, even though this was found out, probably around 1894 when Sir Melville made these claims, he definitely would have known about this in 1898 when he was asked again who he thought Jack the Ripper was, and he again gave the same three names, mostly pointing the finger at Montague Druitt, who we've covered, but still naming this Michael Ostrog when he could not have been there. So where did this motivation or thought come from Sir Melville to throw this guy under the bus as being Jack the Ripper? Now we know, okay, he did get charged with attempted murder, but that seems so out of character. For all his life, he was doing white-collar crimes. So, was he set up with that attempted murder charge just to lock him up because they just couldn't control him? Who knows? I mean, he could have had a moment and just lost it. But he never carried knives. He wasn't a surgeon. He claimed it. Yes, that was one of his cons. So why did Macnaghten feel so hell-bent on pointing the finger at him? Well, we go back to that crime in 1873. What he robbed was Eton College. He stole some very valuable books and some other items, which were all recovered. But who do you think was a student at that time at that college? Well, yes, it was Sir Melville. And to understand this, Melville Macnaghten in his memoir said that the best time of his life was at Eton College. He loved the place. And he had a very close attachment to it all through his life. So this person who stole from the college, he would have known about. And he would have held a grudge against this guy, something fierce. So if someone came to him and said, well, give us at least 3 names of who you think could be Jack the Ripper because nothing's been proven. Well, you know what? That low-life bludger who stole from my cherished college, He could be Jack the Ripper. But now here's an interesting little extra detail which I think needs to be mentioned. James Stephen, who we have covered, went to Eton College. So they could have gone to that Eton College for 1 year together, but regardless if they did or didn't, there's no way Sir Melville would not have heard of James Stephen. They still talk about him today at that college due to his prowess at playing the war game. So if you were trying to deflect suspicion from someone who you thought could have been the Ripper, he would have deflected it away from this person because he would not have wanted such a prominent person from that college to have their name brought into this scandal, because that would really reflect badly on this college that he loved. So he's quick to throw Montague Druitt under the bus. He's quick to throw Michael Ostrog under the bus. But it's interesting that he always said that I had secret information that I destroyed. He never really, in my opinion, actually said what he really thought about this topic. Now, Michael Ostrog does not deserve much sympathy in this regard. Was he Jack the Ripper? No, but he wasn't much of an individual. Yes, he was very charismatic. He was very intelligent. He was well educated. He could get your confidence and then get your money. And if that didn't work, well, if you turned your back, he'd take your items anyway. And I think this series is highlighting something, because we could look at one person and just quickly pull apart the evidence and say, well, no, he wasn't there, so he couldn't have done it, so let's forget about it. But when you dig and when you see the interconnections, it's absolutely fascinating, because now you start to see a larger picture. And to me, that starts telling a story. And that story about the real identity of Jack the Ripper starts to come to light. Yet we still have many suspects to cover and a lot more evidence to dig up. But that does bring us to an end of this week's episode of the Pub Test. As always, I really do appreciate you watching. If you like the video, give us a like. Check out the books. I'm Owen, and we will see you on the next episode of the Pub Test.